So should I buy a Focus ST Edition? Now, this is something I wanted to chat to you guys about because I've done a lot of like testing and like driving a lot of subscribers' cars, the Mark 4.5 facelift, Focus ST and the track pack. And the Focus ST Edition is essentially a track pack. And actually, I've got something so exciting this weekend. This is kind of why it's got my thoughts kind of thinking. I'm actually driving a Mark 4.5 facelift, Focus ST track pack, Revo Stage 2, so 410 horsepower. A very kind subscriber was letting me have it for the weekend coming up, and well worth subscribing for that. And I'll put out quite a few videos on that because I've got the car for obviously 3 days, so that's going to be super exciting. And yeah, it's kind of always been on my mind actually ever since Ford decided to drop the Mark 4 as being an RS. Now luckily I'm a massive fast Ford fan, as you probably know if you've checked out my channel, and I've owned a couple of really nice fast Fords. I've had my Mark 7 Fiesta ST, I had a Mark 7 Fiesta ST200, and my last one was a Mark 3 Focus RS Edition, which was also Revo Stage 2. And loved them to bits. Now this is kind of like the last best fast Ford petrol engine as we kind of know it, in sort of like special edition guys. Now I do like my special edition stuff. You know, I care about residuals, I care about, you know, that kind of element of it. I think it's the biggest cost of ownership. And the Focus ST is actually one of 300 cars, so it should be pretty good on residuals. Well, we're in a little slump in the market at the moment where cars are kind of dropping quite a bit. And I've seen one that's popped up today, and it's from a Ford dealer. It looks completely stock and standard. It's obviously got Ford full service history, 25,000 miles. It's 23,990, and I'm like, that's pretty good for a 1 in 300 fast Ford. Mad about them in the UK. You know, my RS Edition, for example, went up in money. You know, I owned it for 6 months, went up by £250. Wow, amazing. Which just shows how solid those cars is. Now I appreciate the ST Edition is not an RS Edition, but at the same point it's potentially the last actual fast Ford limited run kind of car. I'd be quite interested to see if they actually bring out like a Ford Puma ST Edition. They had the Gold Edition, which I did have a half little look at, which was kind of limited runs, but I think there was like 800 of those. I want something sort of sub 500. And also obviously to be fun and engaging. So there's a few things to think about. I'm also in the stage of my life, I have a 3-door car, maybe a 5-door would make sense. Do I want something a bit more fun? I love like the azure blue paint, I think that looks great. I've driven an ST Edition, Fiesta ST Edition, and that was, the colour of that looks amazing, so I'm set on the colour. I also like the car a lot, and yeah, just stuff like the stuff that makes the difference. No power increase, 280 horsepower. Appreciate I've just spoken about owning a Revo Stage 2 410 brake horsepower Focus RS Edition and driving a 400 plus brake horsepower on the weekend, which I'm super interested about, just to give me that full complete understanding of that car. I mean, that I literally driven everything of that track pack, stock, non-track pack. It will be Revo Stage 2, it will be Mountune M330s, Mountune M3 65, track pack standard, alternatives. I've done them all, so obviously I'm keen on them and I like them because it's like the last of what Ford offers. And I also like a little bit more refinedness over the Fiesta and a little bit more build quality. They're built at a different segment, and that's always quite cool. So I've been thinking about that, and I've seen a few knocking around, and they're cool cars. I like them. And actually for my own personal cars, I probably would actually keep it stock. I like the idea of adjusting the suspension. And actually I spoke to the owner who I'm driving the car at the weekend, and they've put the coilovers to its firmest, so it's at its lowest, it's at its full start. And I was like, wow. And it is going to be a firm car, but you can actually put it on its softest, which obviously could be a little bit better as a one car kind of do everything. Also sounds good, it's got a lot going for it. So I'm sort of half thinking about that. It would be hard to have it as a second car alongside what I own, the Golf R. So it would potentially have to be a replacement on this one. I did have a second car, like the RS Edition, the Mark 3 was a second car, the ST200 was a second car. But they were literally like, I was planning on having them for sort of 6 months, and that's kind of what I did. And it was just like that on the side. I mean, could I have the ST Edition on the side? I don't know. It's lots to think about. And also, I think this car for me offers an awful lot. There are a couple of negatives of the car that I actually own, the Mark 7 Golf R. As much as I've made it absolutely perfect, and you follow my channel over the 7 years, I absolutely love it, and I love how it's completely stock as well. It is a 3-door, which I think looks better, but obviously not the best if I want to get into a future of, yeah, a future of having more people in my life. The other thing is, as much as I love the manual in mine here, one thing people don't know about the Golf R, you'd think it's like, oh, it's all subtle, it's all refined, which it is. The clutch is heavy as. It's heavy as because it's got 300 horsepower and it's got a lot of weight to juggle around, so it has to have a heavy clutch. And that's just part of it. And I mean heavy. Like, I've driven Focus STs and gone, wow, the clutch is nice and light. And that's another thing. I, unfortunately, well, during my late teens and 20s, throughout my 20s, I played football, soccer if you watch from the US, pretty much every day. Monday nights, Wednesday nights, Sunday league, I played football all the time. And I was heavily right-footed. And what happened was, as I got to the end of my late 20s, I kept getting injuries, generally like my ankle and my sort of knee on my left side of my leg. And I stopped playing football at the end of my 20s, and I just stopped. I do feel pain now, unfortunately, which is really shit for me to say, because it's like, this car is perfect and I love the engagement as well, that's the thing. But day to day on the road, it can be a little bit hard. It's fine on like the motorways, this car is great. And it's actually fine on a twisty fun road because you want to have a bit of fun, but when you're stuck in traffic, it's not so great. But then potentially I could just get some sort of cheap arse automatic for like sub £5 and just sort of pot around in that if I really want to, which is not a bad alternative. So there's things that I'm sort of like going through my mind a little bit, and the car's also on 49,700 miles, so it's like, it couldn't be a good time to potentially get out on a high when it's at its absolute peak, perfect sort of state, and try something else, you know, maybe, because obviously the Mark IV Focus ST Edition is a newer car. You know, it's got newer things, and I like it, and I like a car that's normal, but you know, it's a Golf, it's a Ford Focus, but you know, you can still have that super fun on them. And that's why I think, to be fair, I'm gonna have to make a decision probably after this weekend. You know, I got the car for a good 3 days, and thanks to the owner. He's kindly lent me another one of his cars previously as well. You might have seen the Porsche GT4 RS, which was very special. But let me know what you think about the Focus ST Edition. Does it live up to a Focus RS for the Mark IV generation? I think that's the real big thing. I think the track pack, which is essentially the same as the ST Edition, and I mean that because if you check the coilover suspension kits in a track pack, it will say ST Edition. The track pack is an ST Edition, just not limited runs and in facelift guise. And I watched a review, which I might have been putting footage actually on just before I've been speaking, from someone I do know. I know a fair few people in the YouTube industry, and I'll link that below because he's done a really good video. Aaron from Car Obsession. Apologies if I get anything wrong there. And also RS Jamie has recently had. She owns loads of Mark III Focus RS. I'm massively jealous, particularly Heritage. Wow, amazing, and big fast Ford fan. And she's recently had Ford's UK press cars. Sadly, I don't get any press cars. I go for my lovely subscribers who are fantastic towards me, and she had a track pack and she did like over 1,000 miles in it, and she sort of shared her thoughts on her Instagram, and kind of the summary was she didn't think it was as special as her Mark III RS, which I take a lot of knowledge from a lot of people who know their stuff, and that does take a lot into me. Obviously it's subjective to me what I kind of think as well, but yeah, that's an interesting sort of debate. So I'm sort of thinking about it. Yeah, I don't know, but certainly right now I always feel it's like quite a good time to get into it. Again, maybe I could have it as a second car. Be a bit weird though, wouldn't it, to have a Focus ST Edition as a second car? A second car really, for me, should be something like a Ferrari or a Porsche. If I got something like a Focus ST Edition, I think I'm at a stage now I'd probably have to replace this car, and that's probably, I'm still holding on for something. But I've got lots of things to think about, but I value my audience, I value my subscribers, and you know, I welcome you to the channel. If you'd like to like, share, subscribe, I've got plenty of content kind of coming, and I'm looking forward to, and subscribe to see the next set of videos coming up on the facelift track pack Revo Stage 2. I mean, that's going to be absolutely flipping amazing. And yeah, I'll have a little think. I'm always constantly thinking, you know, should I do this, should I do that? And yeah, I'll get myself grounded, don't get too excited over certain things, and you know, remember how I'm grateful and fortunate to have had this car for so long. But there's just a few things. The only real two things is it's 3-door and it's got a really heavy clutch. That's basically it in short. Other than that, it's perfect. Yeah, next time you'll see some videos on the channel, you'll probably see my face going like, oh my god, Revo Stage 2. And I'll leave that in like description or whatever if yeah, if the videos have already come out by now and you're watching this beforehand. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and plenty more content to come.